All right, I'm back again for some new Castlevania news. I don't know. I was gone for a few weeks. I'm currently getting over a cold, and I figured, you know what? Somebody else will pick this up. Somebody else will talk about it, but nobody else is talking about it, and I have no idea why. Because it's kind of big news. Castlevania DS games could be coming. Who knows? Well, these guys know. We're going to be looking at an interview from a website called Akiba-Souken. This is predominantly a Japanese website, and they interviewed two people from Castlevania production, as far as the production side of things go. The first is Mr. Isao Taniguchi, who was in charge. He's like the producer of the series, so he's kind of like the new Koji Igarashi. And also Katsuya Shimazaki, who's the director of the Castlevania Advance Collection. So this news article came out in November, in like mid-November. And nobody talked about it. Nobody posted about it. I saw it on Twitter, and nobody covered it on YouTube. And I'm like, why? Because this is like a lot of really interesting information about this article. So thanks to them for doing the interview, and thanks to the Akiba-Souken for putting out this interview online. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch over to scroll through the interview and read it to you guys and talk about some of the finer points in detail. And we'll go from there.
Alright, first off, shout out to Shinichi Yamamoto, who did this interview, and Akiba-Souken for hosting it. So, I went through this entire interview, and with these two guys. These are the guys that were interviewed. And one of them is a long-time guy who's worked on the Castlevania series here and there. And the other guy is from M2, I believe. So their names are Isao Taniguchi, who's in charge of producing the Akamajo Dracula series, and Katsuya Shimazaki, who's the director of the Castlevania Advance Collection. Again, I think he's from M2. So I went through this entire interview, and it's really informative. They talk about how they actually took pictures. They didn't use digital photos for the manuals. Instead, they actually took photographs of the manuals themselves, and why they decided to do that instead of doing doing just the digital. They also talk about the fact that they had to do debugging on 12 games to be able to submit them. So what that means is they had to play through every single version and debug every single version of the game, meaning not just the North American versions or the Japanese versions, but also the European versions. So pretty neat. There's some additional content and information in this, but really the thing I really wanted to focus on here is when they talk later on in this interview about what's going to happen in the future with Castlevania. So this part right here is the super important part. So it says, how will the IP called Akamajo Dracula develop in the future? Nintendo DS's exploratory action trilogy, Akamajo Dracula Ayotsuki no Cross, Akamajo Dracula Gallery of Labyrinth, which is Portrait of Ruin, and Akamajo Dracula Robbed Stamp. It says here, will be requested to be transplanted, and I personally cooperate. I also want to play the type action Akamajo Dracula Harmony of Despair again. So you got to kind of forgive the broken English or the slightly broken English, because this article is Google translated. But Taniguchi goes on to say, I'm aware that we've received a lot of requests for the exploratory action trilogy, meaning talking about the DS games, but we can't really talk about it at this time. We will continue to listen to everyone's voices and consider them. Shimazaki added, we don't want to turn off the lights of Akamajo Dracula. If you have purchased the Steam version of Castlevania Advance Collection, we would appreciate it if you could write a review as well. Going down further on this, it says, we are expecting new works as well as transplanting past works, so can you give a final message to your readers? They kind of reiterated here, Shimazaki started talking about some of the rewind features, saying all of the recorded works are outstandingly responsive, and you can play with one for dozens of hours. The rewind function and always save load function make it easier to play, so I hope that those who couldn't solve it at that time will be able to pick it up again. Taniguchi added, I'm sure there are people who like exploratory action games, but have never played Akamajo Dracula. This time we have recorded titles that can be said to be this is a search type action, so please play with it. There is also a mode where you can thoroughly enjoy the art and sounds that are the charm of the series, so we hope you enjoy this as well. There's some other information in here as well. I would love to get one of these shirts, by the way. But I guess you gotta register for their website, and then you can apply for it to see if you can get it. It looks like there's one medium and one large. So, whoops, that won't fit me. I'm an extra large. But anyways, they go on to talk a little bit on on here about how well the series has done, at least in terms of the Castlevania Advance Collection. The interviewer asks here, it's a machine 17 years ago. They're talking about the Advance and Nintendo DS and everything. How, they're older and the batteries died and everything. So he's talking about how he can't play it unless he plugs it into a power supply. This is the interviewer talking. And so he goes, still the game itself is playable, so it's a big deal. Returning to the story of Castlevania Advance Collection, how is the reaction after the release? Shimazaki said, it has been highly evaluated. Games with a premier price for secondhand software were sometimes evaluated for their cost performance of being able to play for only 2,200 yen. Then Taniguchi says, to be honest, there was a reaction beyond my imagination. It seems that younger generations who have never played the series have also played it. So, really interesting information here. What they're basically saying is that there is a possibility that the DS games may get released, but they can't talk about it at this time. So I'm going to say, most likely based on this and the fact that Castlevania is so big right now, with they go on to talk about here where it says, please tell us how the Castlevania Advance Collection project was launched. They keep using exploratory action. What they're referring to is the Igavania or Metroidvania or whatever you want to call them games. And then he's saying, but I've never played Akamajo Dracula. There was a voice from a user, and I decided to improve the playing environment on the current machine. Basically what he's saying here, Taniguchi is saying that the games were highly sought after and were stupid expensive secondhand, so they decided to port them. That's pretty much it. And then Shimazaki added that Netflix's anime series, the Castlevania series, the animation series, being distributed, and Akamajo Dracula was still well known. However, exploratory actions have not been ported to the current hardware, and existing ones on the market also have a premium price, making it difficult to play. Again, just briefly saying that the advanced games are stupid expensive now to get a second-hand copy. First-hand copies no longer exist. You could play them on the Wii U, but who has a Wii U? I do, but not everybody did, and not everybody wants to have to buy a Wii U in order to download those games. And the eShop's not going to be around forever. If you can look at Castlevania Rebirth and all the Rebirth games as a perfect example of a medium such as this digitally dying and not being resurrected. What I'd like to happen, and what I think should happen, in my opinion, based on this Advance Collection, is they should release, and maybe are releasing, a DS collection down the road, maybe in a year or so, or a year and a half, or 2 years. They just wrapped on the Advance Collection, so it's probably going to take a while. But don't be surprised if you see a DS collection float up in the near future. And in addition to that, what you may also see is another game added into it that, to kind of make it a more exciting opportunity to play. My best guess, and this is just, me thinking out loud here, but having M2 port Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth, or maybe just the entire Rebirth series, digitally over to modern day systems, or adding in Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth to this DS collection of Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of a Ruin, and Order of Ecclesia. So, who knows? Who knows what we'll see? But I thought this was really interesting, with them basically saying here that yes, we hear that Castlevania Advance had a niche audience initially, but it sold wildly beyond our expectations, and now we're seriously considering the DS collection, but we can't talk about it right now. So I'm curious what you guys think of all this. Let me know.
All right, so what'd you think? I'm very interested in your opinions on this. Do you think a DS collection is coming? Do you think the Castlevania brand has kind of been reinvigorated, not just since the Castlevania Netflix collection, but for future games? You've got Grimoire of Souls, you've got, some potential news about a remake happening or a remaster or something. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this information. I'd love to hear it, and as always, discuss it with you guys. So thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you don't know what that is, if you're like, how do I stay in tune with this guy because he's on the tip of Castlevania news and I need to be on the tip of Castlevania news, well, you do so by subscribing to the channel. That's all I got. Thanks so much. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.